You've got bugs. Maybe it's ants coming in along the baseboard in the kitchen. Maybe it's those little beetles you keep finding in the pantry. Maybe it's something worse, roaches, fleas, whatever moved in with the dog or blew in through a crack you haven't found yet. Doesn't matter what they are. You've got them. And you went to the store and you stood in that aisle staring at 17 different sprays and bombs and bait stations, and you spent $25, $30, and it worked for a little while and then it didn't, and now you're back. I want to show you what I use instead. It's a white powder. You can buy a 2-pound bag of it for about $4. It has no smell. It won't hurt your kids or your dog. It doesn't go bad. It works on nearly every crawling bug that exists, and it works every single time. And the pest control industry has spent decades making sure most people never hear its name. It's called Diatomaceous earth. Most people can't even say it on the first try, so I'll just call it DE from here on out. Here's what it actually is, because this part matters, and I'll keep it short. There are tiny creatures, smaller than a grain of sand, that have lived in lakes and oceans for millions of years. When they die, their shells sink and pile up, and over time they turn into a soft, chalky rock. You mine that rock, you grind it fine, and that's DE. It looks like white talcum powder. To your eye and mine, it looks like nothing at all. To a bug, it's razors. Bugs have a waxy outer shell that holds their moisture in. That's how they stay alive. Their body holds water the same way your skin does. When a bug walks through DE, the powder gets into the joints of that shell and it scratches it open. Not with poison, not with a chemical reaction. Physically, the bug loses moisture it can't replace, and it dies. Usually within a day or two, sometimes faster. That's the whole mechanism. No magic, no mystery. It's sharp dust that ruins the one thing bugs can't live without. And here's why that matters more than any spray you've ever bought. Bugs cannot become resistant to it. Every few years, you hear about some new super roach, some ant colony that shrugged off the latest bait. That's because poisons work on bug chemistry, and bug chemistry can change over generations. Physics doesn't change. Sharp edges are sharp edges in 1925 and sharp edges today. And there's no version of a cockroach that figures out how to not need moisture. DE has been doing exactly this since before your grandmother was born, and it works just as well today as it ever did. Now, before we go any further, there's one thing I need to say plainly, and I won't bury it. There are two kinds of diatomaceous earth, and you need to know the difference before you buy anything. The kind you want is called food grade. That's the one that's safe around people and animals. It's what I use. It's what I'm talking about this entire video. The other kind is pool grade or filter grade. It's treated with heat and it's used in pool filtration systems. It is not safe to breathe or handle the way you'd handle the food grade stuff. The bag will say pool filter or filter grade right on it. Don't buy that one. Don't use that one in your house. Food grade is what you want. It will say food grade on the bag, Red Lake brand, Safer brand, Harris, any of those, as long as the bag says food grade. Most farm supply stores carry it. You can order it online, $4, sometimes a little more for a bigger bag. One bag will last you a long time. One more thing while I'm on safety, because I want to be straight with you. Food grade DE is safe, but that doesn't mean you want to breathe clouds of it. It's a fine powder, and any fine powder you don't want in your lungs in big quantities. When you're applying it, don't dump it and create a big puff. Put it where it needs to go slow, and if you're doing a lot of it in a tight space like under a crawl space or in an attic, a cheap dust mask doesn't hurt. Normal use around the house, you're fine. Just don't shake the bag over your face. By the way, methods like this one, I've got a whole book of them. Every trick I use to run this house for less, written down in one place. It's on my website, the link's right below the video. Go grab it. I won't mention it again. All right, let's talk about how to actually use it, because this is where most people go wrong. The single biggest mistake people make with DE is using too much. I know that sounds backwards. You'd think more powder means more killing. It doesn't. Bugs have to walk through it. If you pile it up into a thick layer, bugs will walk around it. They'll go right around the little mountain of white powder the same way you'd walk around a pile of sand on the floor. What you want is a thin, barely there dusting. Just enough that you can see it's there. A film, not a pile. Think of how lightly you dust powdered sugar on a cookie. That's about right. Thin and even. The second thing is placement. DE doesn't float through the air and kill bugs on contact. It's not a spray. You have to put it where bugs travel, and bugs almost always travel along edges. They don't walk through the middle of your kitchen floor. They move along baseboards, along the wall where it meets the floor, inside cabinets along the back corner, under appliances, along the back of a drawer. Anywhere dark, anywhere tight, anywhere they can keep a wall to one side of them. That's where you put it. For ants coming in, I trace where they're entering a crack by the window, a gap at the baseboard, a spot where a pipe comes through the wall, and I put a thin line right there, not a wall of it. A line they have to cross to get in. For roaches, DE goes behind the refrigerator, behind the stove, inside the cabinet under the sink, in the corner where the pipes come through, anywhere dark and warm. Roaches live in those spots, and they'll walk through whatever you put there every single night. For fleas in the carpet, this is one people don't think about. Sprinkle DE lightly across the carpet, and I mean lightly. Don't turn your living room white, work it in a little with a broom, leave it for a day or two, then vacuum. The fleas and their eggs pick it up as they move through the fibers. I've done this when a dog brought fleas in, and it works. Just don't let the dog lie in a heavily dusted area while it's sitting. Remember, thin layer, not a pile. For pantry beetles, those little brown bugs you find in flour or rice or oats, put a thin line of DE along the back edge of the pantry shelf, along the edge of the cabinet. They travel that edge when they're out moving around. They'll hit it. For bed bugs, and I say this carefully because bed bugs are serious, and if you have a real infestation, you may need more help, but DE along the baseboard in the bedroom, along the bed frame if it's wood, is part of how you deal with them. Put it in the cracks in the frame. They have to travel through it to get to where they're going, and they will. The thing about DE that I want you to understand is that it's not a spray it and walk away situation. It keeps working as long as it stays dry and stays in place. That's the deal. Dry and in place. Wet DE does nothing. If it gets damp, you clean the floor. The humidity in your basement gets to it, it loses its effect. It dries back out and works again. So it's not ruined. But while it's wet, it's just paste. So you keep it in dry places, which is generally right where bugs travel anyway. Behind the fridge, under the stove, inside a dry cabinet, those are fine. Outside along a wet foundation, not as useful. If you vacuum an area or wipe it down, you need to reapply. It's not permanent, but in the spots you put it and leave it inside a cabinet corner, behind an appliance, in a crack at the baseboard, it can sit there for months, years, doing its job every time a bug walks through, without you doing anything. I've had DE behind my refrigerator for going on 2 winters now. I haven't seen a roach in the kitchen in that time. I'm not saying it's all DE. A clean kitchen matters, but DE handles what slips through everything else. Now let me tell you about a few places I especially like to use it that people don't think about. The attic. If you have any kind of bug issue in the upper floors, beetles, certain ants, silverfish, dust, DE along the attic floor, along the edges, around any opening where wiring or pipes come through, bugs get into houses through the attic and the crawl space just as often as they come in at ground level, and it's a place that stays dry, stays undisturbed, and the DE will just sit there quietly doing its job. The crawl space, same logic, dust the perimeter. Along the rim joist, along the edges of the floor, bugs that live in the crawl space, certain beetles, centipedes, the things that come up through the floor, they move along those edges. Around door frames and window frames on the outside, where the frame meets the siding, is another good one. Thin line right in that gap. Ants find their way in through those seams constantly. And here's one I use every summer, wherever my dog sleeps. A light dusting on the dog bed, worked into the fabric a little before he lies down. Not a heavy coating, a dusting. It keeps fleas and ticks from setting up shop in his bedding. He's never had a reaction to it. Food-grade DE is used as a feed supplement for livestock in some farming communities. People mix it into chicken feed, grain, all kinds of things. I'm not here to tell you to feed it to your dog. I'm just telling you your dog lying on a lightly dusted bed is not going to hurt him. Let me tell you what DE won't do, because I said I'd be straight with you. It will not work on flying insects. Mosquitoes, flies, moths in the air, they never touch the ground long enough for DE to matter. That's not the tool for that job. It's slower than a spray. If you fog a room with pesticide, Bugs die fast. DE takes a day or two to fully do its work. So if you've got a roach running across your counter tonight and you need it gone in 30 seconds, DE is not the answer in that moment. But the reason you keep seeing that roach is that there are 30 more where it came from, and DE is how you deal with those 30. The spray kills one bug in front of you. DE erodes the whole population over time. And it needs to stay dry, like I said. It's not for everywhere. It's for dry, protected spots where it can sit undisturbed. But for what it is, for a crawling bug population in your house, I have not found anything that beats it long term. Not one thing. Now let me tell you something plain about the pest control industry, because it's worth saying. A pest control company comes to your house. They spray. It smells strong, it looks like they did something, and you feel better. 2 months later, the bugs are back, maybe fewer of them, maybe the same, maybe different ones, and the company comes back and sprays again. $75, $100, $125 a visit. And this goes on for as long as you own the house. That is a subscription service built on a product that wears off. DE doesn't wear off unless it gets wet or gets vacuumed up. A $4 bag applied right in the right spots lasts for months without anyone coming back, without a service contract, without a quarterly visit. I'm not saying pest companies are dishonest. Some of them do real work for real infestations. What I'm saying is they have no reason to hand you a $4 bag and say, here, put this in those 3 spots. You won't need us for a year. That conversation doesn't pay their technician. The spray that wears off in 6 weeks does. Your grocery store has no bag of DE on the shelf. Your hardware store might have it, might not. It's not in the insecticide aisle, usually. If a store carries it, it's often with the garden supplies or with pool stuff, which is confusing given what I told you earlier about pool grade. Read the bag. Farm stores almost always have it. Online is reliable. Harris and Safer both sell it in resealable bags, food grade, $4 to $8 depending on the size. The only tool I'd tell you to pick up alongside it is a cheap powder duster, sometimes called a puffer bottle or a bulb duster. It's a little squeeze bottle with a nozzle that lets you puff DE into cracks and tight spaces without making a mess and without breathing a cloud of it. They run $2, $3 online. You fill it partway, point it into a crack, give it a gentle squeeze. You get DE right where you need it with almost no waste. You can do without it. I've applied DE plenty of times with nothing more than a spoon and a steady hand, but the duster makes it cleaner and easier, especially behind appliances and inside cabinet corners. So here's where I'd start. This week, order a bag of food-grade DE. While you're at it, grab a cheap powder duster if you can. When it comes, take 20 minutes. Look at where you've seen bugs. Trace the edges, baseboards, cabinet corners, under the sink, behind the fridge. Put a thin line, barely visible, in every one of those spots. Do the same around any crack or gap you know bugs are using to get in. Leave it alone. Check back in a week. You'll likely find dead bugs, or you'll just find fewer bugs. Either way, you'll understand what the powder is doing, and you'll start to see where else to put it. That's it. 20 minutes, $4, and you've done something that will work longer and cost less than anything in that spray aisle ever will. Tell me in the comments what bug you're dealing with and where you're finding it. Ants, roaches, fleas, beetles, tell me what you've got and where it's showing up, and I'll tell you exactly where I'd put the DE for that situation. I read every one of those, and sometimes your question turns into the next video. If you want to go further with this kind of thing using what's already on the low shelf instead of whatever's got the biggest advertising budget, there's more right here on this channel. Come back and I'll show you another one.